There's nothing animator Frank Thomas likes better than sitting on a street corner watching how the world goes by.
I've been sitting here on the corner of Dopey Drive and Mickey Mouse Avenue. This is a real good place to watch people go by. Every artist has to go back to sources of inspiration. If he's portraying people as an actor or an author or an animator, he has to study people. What makes each individual different from the others? In our business, that's very important. In the 101 Dalmatians, we had the main dog, Pongo, was looking out the window at the women walking their dogs across the street.
Well, I do say. Now, there's a fancy breed. Perhaps a little too fancy. Too old. Too young. Well, now that's a bit more like it.
Frank puts his observations to good use. They end up on the screen as animated characters you can really believe in.
That was the big thing to me, making the audience get involved in this and caring about what was happening to the characters. If you could get that, well, then I figured, well, there's something to work on.
Frank Thomas worked on Disney animation for 45 years. His heartfelt appetite for life went into every frame of film he drew. This is his story in the Disney Family Album. As the son of a school teacher from a small farm town, Frank Thomas had a no-frills upbringing.
I grew up in Fresno, which was at that time was a fairly small town. I was still associating with people who were close to the soil. And I've always felt that makes a difference in your appreciation and in your feeling about humor and about animals and about people. You get down to basics of what kind of a person anybody is.
As an art student at Stanford University, Frank had his mind on a million things other than cartoons.
At the time I was going to school, I enjoyed the cartoons that were out. The Mickeys and things that you'd see in the theaters. We liked them a lot, but I never thought of that as a profession because it looked like, it wasn't classy enough. I had ideas that I was going to be an illustrator. I was going to be an industrial designer. I was going to design egg beaters. I was going to do good things.
At that time, Disney animation was improving with each new cartoon. And Frank recognized a dimension missing in his field of study.
The thing that had really attracted me to the Disney studios was this picture of the flying mouse, because that was the first time that I'd seen on the screen a character that drew the audience in. The audience identified with this character. You felt sorry for him. There was warmth, there was pathos in the thing. And I'd said, boy, if our cartoons can do this is a new type of thing. I'd be interested in working there, because I always liked to draw cartoons. And so I went out to the studio, took the tryout, and got hired. $17 a week. That was big money.
Although he was a college graduate, Frank found his real education was just beginning.
Almost immediately, this easy life that I'd been looking forward to of sitting there and drawing little pictures and laughing it up disappeared. Walt put us into art class. He put us into studying action analysis, looking at old films, studying characters, studying filmmaking, all of these things. And these are the things that appealed to me. Some animators felt that the drawing was the whole thing. If you drew well, that's all you needed. Others felt that you had to duplicate realism. That's what they were interested in. They wanted things exactly they were in real life. Others wanted to do something outlandish so that everybody would say, hey, who did that scene? Oh, yeah, I know, that's old so-and-so's scene. With me, I wanted the believable characters that the audience would care about.
After doing time as an in-betweener, the college-educated Thomas became an assistant to the great Freddie Moore, who was a natural-born animator.
Boy, I ruined a lot of Freddie's drawings. I didn't know that he was so good at that time, I was a punk kid. Freddie was one of the best animators, the most natural animator that's ever been in the industry.
Always chasing cats, aren't you? Well, you're going to have plenty to answer for on your judgment day. Now lie down.
He had to feel right about what he was doing, and it'd take him quite a while to work up a head of steam. But once he was feeling right, he'd sit there in his chair, and his feet wouldn't even reach the floor. He'd put them up on the wheels of the swivel chair, and pull out another piece of paper and sort of humming. And in about an hour's time, without ever breaking his concentration, he would do as much work as someone else would do in a whole week. He was also the fellow who developed Mickey. It gave him a new body. It's called the pear-shaped body because it can now do so many more expressions, so many more positions in the body. But he had this great way of drawing the things, and working with him, I picked up a great interest in Mickey too, so when I got a chance to do a big scene of him in The Brave Little Tailor, it was real fun.
Brave Tailor, I appoint you Royal High Killer of the Giant.
Giant? But your Majesty, I...
And your reward shall be 1,000,000 golden pezoozas and the hand
sir.
of the Princess Minnie.
I'll cut him down to my size.
Another member of the Disney faculty, Norm Ferguson, taught Frank how to breathe life into a cartoon character.
He was the one who made Pluto think. And if Pluto hadn't been thinking, none of the other characters would ever think. And the thinking was the most important contribution on the Disney animation. He never knew any restrictions on drawing. If he wanted the eyes to come way up off the top of the head, for a big take, he'd draw them up there. He didn't know that eyes were supposed to stay within the skull circle. He'd say, why?
Fergie's canine courses paid off, as you can see in Frank's animation for Mickey's Elephant.
Pluto's coming along and he sees this ball come out there, and he wonders what it is. Well, as he goes down to sniff on the thing, the elephant sucks it with his trunk back under the fence. And this makes Pluto very interested in the whole thing. This was the thought process, which was the key to making a believable character, getting the character to think and puzzle out a situation. And Pluto was ideal for this.
If you could animate Pluto by observing the everyday Pooch, it was apparent to Frank that observing and analyzing human beings could lead to even more interesting animation.
I personally feel that you have to get out in the world and see people. You have to observe people. You have to watch what's going on and see in order to know what's funny about them. You have to argue with the insurance man. You have to argue with the salesman. You have to try to get rid of the old girlfriend.
Frank joined fellow animator Ward Kimball in forming the studio jazz band, the Firehouse 5+2. From his piano player's perch, Frank kept a keen lookout for characters.
It was very good for observing because, the piano player is like the host. If you're playing a trombone, you got something in your face and you can't really do anything. If you're playing clarinet, banjo is pretty good. Drummer's always too busy hitting things. But the piano player, he sits here and he smiles and he nods and he's looking around. And I'm looking for characters that I can use in the pictures. It was actually while I was playing in the band that I saw my model for the Queen of Hearts. She's sitting at a table over there and she was very autocratic. She figured she was the queen, but she was sloppy in her manners and sloppy the way she ate. And there was just something about